How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video. Welcome back to the Robbie Basel Show. Pleasure to have all of you guys join me here today for another season preview, which is kind of what we are doing here today. Now, wireless mic is back. Lighting may be terrible, but guess what? It's gonna be a good day. We got a new video for you guys here today. It's the NFL season preview. Second time we're doing it on this channel. Next episode, we go back to highlights. We'll go over the U.S. Open's madness, upsets galore. It's been so much fun. We talk about Arsenal, and I'll do the first Basel breakdown of what was going on during the Arsenal match. I'm currently working on that. That might eventually become its own shortened video or a whole other series. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'm also trying to figure out the mic situation. So GG's to that, but make sure to go down below, like and subscribe. Would really appreciate it. And shout out to everyone who joined me on the Empire Sports Media stream from Saturday. They'll have me back. I just don't know when. But I'll let you guys know when I will be back on that show. It was a lot of fun. It was a 4-hour stream. The game was fun. The stream was madness. I really enjoyed it. So shout out to JJ Seglio and all the guys from Empire Sports Media, him and Jacob and all them lot. And yeah, it's a great time. Into the stands, still no news on that one. I'll hopefully have some stuff because of the WIUR meeting this week. It's supposed to be this week. So I'll be able to give you guys hopefully news on that to open Friday's video. Everything's still up in the air. A lot going on, and yeah, I'm just gonna we'll see where it takes us. New show possibly. Will we stay with them? All that. Hopefully, will be cleared up in the beginning of the next video. So where do we begin? NFL season kicks off on Thursday. At the end, if I remember, we'll try and go over Thursday's games. So hopefully, in the graphics, I'll have list it one by one of each team, maybe give them some love, maybe give them some highlights. Who knows? Because I honestly don't know how I'm going to do this edit, but we'll see where it goes. And we begin with the AFC East. That's how we begin all of these types of videos. And who do I have finishing from 4th to 1st, and if they make the playoffs? So in 4th, I have the New England Patriots, and I have them going 3-14. They are a mess. They have Drake May. They're not starting Drake May off the top. And I feel like that's the smart decision. Drake May a little bit more raw, coming out of North Carolina. He has a lot of talent, and they're not trying to rush him in New England under Jared Mayo. I think they've done that right. May's a very intriguing talent coming out of college, but I think they're kind of doing it smart by not trying to rush him. On the flip side, they traded one of their best players in Matthew Judon. They've lost a lot of players. They're not good, and they're going to get walked over by a lot of teams. But I think it will still be it'll be a problem to score on. I like their secondary. They had a lot of injuries in the secondary last year. I'm interested to see how they look in that department. But other than that, it's going to be a very struggling season for the New England Patriots. I have them at 3-14. Following them, I have a disappointing season for the Buffalo Bills. I have them finishing 3rd at 8-9. They've lost so much talent in the wide receiver room. And, just to name a few, they traded Stephon Diggs. They lost Gabe Davis. And they were only able to get one true difference maker in replacement. I like Curtis Samuel. He'll be an impact for them on the outside. But I just don't think that's the true number 2 receiver you need. Curtis Samuel, good in the slot, able to get separation from time to time, but he's not a true difference maker. Who is a difference maker, and I think can maybe be in the mix for Rookie of the Year, is Keon Coleman. I loved Keon Coleman. I had him in my mock draft going in the 1st round. He is one of the... he had a bad combine, but usually those things don't always mean that they're going to be bad NFL players. I like Keon Coleman. I think the Josh Allen-Keon Coleman connection will be really solid. I love the tight ends. They have Dalton Kincaid. Still have Dawson Knox. They're both very good. Offensive line's all right. The issue for them is going to be the defense. They lost so many pieces. From the defensive line, I believe they lost Tre'Davious White. They lost a lot in the secondary, and I think they will be much easier to score on as the season goes on because they have injuries and they've lost so many key contributors. I think the Bills are going to snap back to reality, and I have them going 8-9. Finishing in second place and making the playoffs, surprisingly, I have the New York Jets. Now, I am not saying I have them making the playoffs because I'm a fan of the team. That's not what it is. I have the Jets going in the 10-7, 11-6 range. Right now I have them at 11-6, but it's very possible they finish at 10-7. I also think it's very possible they finish at 7-10. There are a lot of things with how this team is built that can go wrong very fast. I will just put it out as that. There's a lot of things with this team, with how they're built, that can go wrong very fast. And we've seen it already with the Hassan Reddick situation, where he's holding out. So they essentially traded a third-round pick for a guy to play 0 games. That's miraculous. They traded John Franklin Myers. I like John Franklin Myers, but he had a bad contract, and he's now going to wither away, I believe, with the Denver Broncos, who they actually get to play again this season. They were able to add Mike Williams, which you could take that how you will. I think it's a very up-in-the-air move because he's a solid receiver when he's healthy, but he's never healthy. Hopefully he turns into like my window and shines into the light or something and gets like 1,000 yards or something. It's not going to happen, but people can hold some type of hope, and I'm thinking that Mike Williams might be the difference maker at wide receiver 2 when he's available. They still have Garrett Wilson. I love Breece Hall, the young running back group with Breece Hall, with Izzy Abanikanda, with Braylon Allen, and the other guy I'm forgetting. I feel terrible. There's another running back. I always forget his name. They have 4 running backs. They're all pretty solid. Wide receiver group's okay. It's very top heavy. The back end of that group, I'm not the biggest fan of. Offensive line, they're all trying to stay healthy, which, fair enough, they do get injured very much, that offensive line. And defensively, they still have one of the best defenses in the league. So if the defense can continue to perform, the offense can actually move the ball, led by the returning Aaron Rodgers, maybe he makes it more than 4 plays. Maybe he makes it 8 plays in the opener a week from the day I'm recording this video. That'd be a success, I think, for this team. But at the end of the day, I have the Jets going in this prediction 11-6. I do have them making the playoffs. And winning this division, I have the Miami Dolphins. I do have Miami winning the division. I have them winning it at 12-5. It's going to be more comfortable than a 1-game win. I think it'll be. I have the feeling that the Jets going 10-7 makes more sense, and Miami winning it by multiple games. This Miami team is still very good. The wide receiver group, miraculous. Tua Tagovailoa getting paid this offseason, something that they needed to do. They still have a great running back group led by Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Achane and Mostert are going to be difference makers. Tight end group, not a fan of. Offensive line, could be better. And I still have a lot of faith in the defense. They're just going to put up like 40 points a game, and no one's going to be able to stop them. So, I like this Dolphins offense. Defense, I'm still a decent fan of, but I think it could be better. They lost Christian Wilkins. I'm interested to see how they go about it after losing Christian Wilkins. I think they had an okay draft. They did a lot of things right. They still have a very good team. I have them winning the division, the AFC East division, at 12-5. But there's divisions that are going to be closer, and the divisions that are going to be more intriguing, like the AFC North. That's where we're going to go next. AFC North, I have the bottom feeders. I do have the Cleveland Browns. I am not a fan of this Cleveland Browns team. The defense is good. The offense worries me still. The offensive line, not that solid. I mean, it's all right, but it's not like the greatest thing in the world. I might be missing something. Who the hell knows? Deshaun Watson, we don't know how he's going to perform. Running back group, do they have Kareem Hunt still? I actually don't know if they have. I don't think Kareem Hunt's there. Kareem Hunt. Is he? Kareem Hunt. Oh, he's still on the Browns, so it'll be Kareem Hunt starting at running back. But let's look at this Cleveland Browns roster because I am definitely missing something. I have to be missing something, you know what I'm saying? Because this team, they have some really good defensive players. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, just to name a couple of them. They still have a lot of quality, but I don't know if they're going to be able to put it all together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's look at this team. They still have Amari Cooper. He's fine. Elijah Moore. They traded for Jerry Jeudy. It's all right. Offensive line. There's some decent players. I think they signed Jedrick Wills. Hopefully he comes back to form. Wyatt Teller's okay. Jack Conklin, who knows? They don't have Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford is actually leading the group. It's not Kareem Hunt. It's Jerome Ford. So the running game's not going to be great. But the defensive front will cause problems. I just don't think they're going to outscore anyone. So I have them at a disappointing 6-11. They're one of my most disappointing teams of this season. In third is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, this team is not as much better than the Browns are. But if you know the history of the Steelers, under Mike Tomlin, they've never gone under 500. I'm keeping the theme going with that. Steelers group, they have a good team around them. They made some moves. They failed to get Brandon Ayuk, and I understand that it's going to hurt them more. But I'm counting on a big season for George Pickens. I'm intrigued to see how he clicks with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever they play at quarterback, because it could be either one of them. They're starting with Russ, but I don't think it will be Russ the whole season. The defense is solid. They have a lot of great pieces. Mike Tomlin's going to figure it out. I'm interested to see who else emerges out of that offense not named George Pickens. Will it be Najee Harris in a contract year for him? Will it be someone else in the running back room that I haven't mentioned? What other receiver will be able to make an impact? The tight ends with Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, how are they going to look? Can the offensive line keep it together? If the offensive line can keep it together, I think this team could be even better than 9-8. The defense, we know about TJ Watt. They added Patrick Queen from the Baltimore Ravens. They're looking good in the linebacking core. I'm very intrigued to see how they look. Secondary, they're still okay. I wish they upgraded it maybe a little bit more, but I think it's pretty solid. So I have the Pittsburgh Steelers right in the middle of the road, 9-8. But we'll see if that gets them into the playoffs, as there is a big tie at 9-8. Just warning you now, there's a big group at 9-8. Next team up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I am a fan of this Bengals team. I really overrated them last season. I really overrated the Bengals, and they had a ton of injury problems. What were the problems they had going into this offseason? Was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. They signed both of them. Good. Jamar Chase contract still looms large for this team, but they're able to get the two best big things done. What was the Higgins contract? This is where me not knowing anything comes into play, because T. Higgins got the franchise tag. I thought he got a new contract. Was I missing something? Did he not get a new contract? Wow, I'm stupid. He got the franchise tag. I must be missing something. And he's going to be playing the season under the franchise tag. So that's my fault. I thought he got a new contract, so I thought he signed something. I thought it was a new contract. My mistake. But they were able to re-sign Joe Burrow to a good contract. They now have to figure out how to re-sign the receiving group. Like I said, I thought they re-signed T. Higgins. They didn't re-sign T. Higgins. They were able to add a couple other pieces in the free agency, I believe. Free agency additions from them. I'm just drawing a blank on who they were. They got a new backup with Logan Woodside. They re-signed Von Bell, which is good. They got Zach Moss, Trent Brown. There's a couple. See, this is what I thought the headline was. It says Bengals re-signed T. Higgins. So he signed the 1-year tender. So hopefully they figure out how to re-sign both receivers. So, yeah, I mean, they re-signed Jake Brown. They made some moves, but this offense is still going to put up like 40 points as well. They're going to be a team that really focuses on the offense. And I'll just put it this. I have the Bengals Even though they lost Joe Mixon, I have them going at 10-7 and finishing second in this division. And winning the division, we all know who it is. It's the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, listen, they may have lost Patrick Queen, but they got a real running back who hopefully won't be injured by week 2. And that is Derrick Henry. He is a force. He will be the main impact of this rushing attack. Now you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield. That's ridiculous. Wide receiver group, still really good, led by Zay Flowers. They have a ton of quality on this offense. Offensive line's good. Defense is still really, really strong. This team is going to make some significant noise. Whoever wins this division, I will say this, will be the one that makes the most noise in the AFC this year. You can make a fair argument for that, excluding Kansas City. I trust Baltimore the most. They're going to avenge their situation from last year, blowing it against the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them winning this division, making the playoffs with a record of 12-5. Lamar Jackson, possible MVP candidate as well. I'm just saying, possible MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson. AFC South, we're going to go to the South next. And bottom, I have Tennessee. I have them going 3-14. I know, very cruel record for the Tennessee Titans, but they're just not that good. And I'll put it at that. They're not very good. They still have a lot of holes. They added a lot of very interesting pieces. I believe they added Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley. But are those the pieces that this team really needs? Maybe. They added J.C. Latham to the offensive line, so I'm not complaining about the move for J.C. Latham. I think he's going to be pretty solid. The defense isn't good. They have lost a lot of players. I think the Titans are going to be really bad. I have them finishing as tied for the worst record in the conference, with New England finishing worse because of their strength of schedule. In third, and missing out on the playoffs by conference record, I believe is what I have it as, is Indianapolis. They barely miss out again. I have them missing out. AR-15, Anthony Richardson, will be very, very good. They have a good group of players. Jonathan Taylor. I'm not as high on the season for Jonathan Taylor as some, but I still think he's going to be pretty solid. They have Michael Pittman, and they drafted somebody else I'm forgetting, the Texas receiver. I'm just blanking on the name. So they got some weapons. The defense is still good. I just don't trust them in big games as a Jacksonville or a Houston. If you want to look in other divisions, they're not going to be on the level of the Jets. They're not going to be on the level of course, Kansas City, Baltimore. They're not going to be on the level of the Cincinnati Bengals. So I have them just missing out again. Heartbreak for Indianapolis. They're still really, really good. They have a lot of talent. And they were just that close last year. I'm going to have them finishing just missing out on a playoff spot this year. I have them going 9-8. Also going 9-8 and missing the playoffs, I have Jacksonville. I have them also going at 9-8. I'm a little bit worried about this team in certain areas. Trevor Lawrence coming off of the brand new contract. Interested to see how he performs. I'm expecting a better season from Trevor. I know he was injured I believe he was playing through injuries last season. So I'm expecting a little bit more from Trevor Lawrence. I still think he has a lot of quality. He has a lot of things going for him. I think he's going to be really, really solid. But I'm just hesitant on the group around him. They added Gabe Davis, but that's not really the impact they needed. They still have, I believe, I don't know if they have Evan Ingram still, but they still got a decent offensive line. The defense led by Josh Allen. They have good players, but I'm just counting on some other teams to be able to finish higher than them. So I have Jacksonville just missing out on a wild card spot at 9-8. And winning the division at 11-6 is the Houston Texans. They have the best quarterback in the division. They have the third best running back. That's the one department they're lacking is running back. Because I like ETN and Jonathan Taylor more than Joe Mixon or I'm just blanking on the other name now. This is what's happening when you record a video on a Monday, I guess. Oh, and happy Labor Day, by the way. I am recording this on the afternoon of Labor Day. So I have the Texans. They have better wide receivers than the rest of this division. I like their defense more than most of this division. Offensive line, like everything, I like more. And the Texans come here getting that first hurdle done, making the playoffs. I know this statement or the saying is you can get to the playoffs one time, it's more difficult to make it back. I'm not counting on that with this Texans team. CJ Stroud and company are too good to miss out on a playoff spot like this. They're going to be really, really good. I have them going 11-6. They're just way too talented to not win this division. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and oh my God, I'm on very little sleep if you can tell. And Tank Dell, there you go, Tank Dell, who's carried me in fantasy at the back end of last season before he got hurt. They will be the difference makers. I have the Texans winning the division as the lowest record AFC divisional winner at 11-6. Finally, we go to the AFC West, a division that I'm not high on at all, really. And we'll start off with Vegas, who are bottom. I have them going 4-13. They have Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, and that's about it. They added Brock Bowers, which is a position they didn't really need. They weren't aggressive enough in the draft to trade up to draft a quarterback. They didn't do a lot of things right. They signed Gardner Minshew. He's going to be able to win them a couple of games, but that offensive line's not blocking anyone. The defense is subpar. They're just not going to do anything. They're going to be a team that finishes in the middle of the road. I have them going 4-13. Finishing in third, I have the Broncos at 6-11. Another team that's just meh. Like the quarterback situation, Bo Nix looked good in preseason, able to make some really good throws. The defense looks okay. Cortland Sutton is dying on this team essentially, and they traded away a lot of good players. Remember the age when this team was led with players like Jerry Jeudy and Bradley Chubb and a bunch of other names. Pat Surtain is great. Will he stay on this team more than 2 years? Will he re-sign with them? Who knows? I don't know if he's got an extension with the team yet. So I like Pat Surtain. Well, I remember when they drafted him back in 2020. He was supposed to be really, or 20. No, he was the 21 draft. Pat Surtain. Yeah, 21 draft. Pat Surtain. So I'm back in on a lot of things for Denver. To be okay. They're just okay. I don't know if Bo Nix and company are going to be able to do enough. I have them going 6-11. Finishing in third at 8-9 is Los Angeles. The ground game is the personnel they have and the style of offense that they're going to be able to run, that they're going to run under Harbaugh, is not the way that it doesn't fit to the team's strengths at all. The high-powered passing attack was why the Chargers were good at one point under Brandon Staley and coaches before them. With Justin Herbert at quarterback, they had Mike Williams, they had Keenan Allen, they had a bunch of other players. And their new number one receiver is Quentin Johnston. I think I've said enough on the offense. And they're now a ground and pound team, possibly, because of Harbaugh's style. I don't think that's going to work. The defense is all right, but they have some quality players over there. Derwin James, I believe, Derwin James is really good. I believe he's still there. But they're just not a team to be intriguing at all for this season. So I have them going 8-9 and missing the playoffs. And winning this division at 13-4 and getting the number one seed in the AFC, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they're without Hollywood Brown, and I know they're without a couple of players to start the season. But you just can't doubt Mahomes ever. You can't. I've learned my lesson. I am not doubting this team yet. We'll talk about them more in my preseason playoff predictions at the back end of this video. I'm not doubting the Kansas City Chiefs here. And they have so much quality in various positions, from Mahomes to Pacheco to Travis Kelce Defensively, they did lose a couple of players, but I still think they're a high-powered offense is going to carry them. I have them at 13-4 and winning this division. So the teams making the playoffs out of the AFC, I have the Chiefs out of the West as the 1 seed. 2 seed, I have the Miami Dolphins of the AFC East. 3rd, I have Baltimore winning the AFC North. And 4th, I have the Houston Texans. With the wild card teams of the New York Jets, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are my 7 out of the AFC, with teams just missing Jacksonville and Indianapolis are my 2 teams just missing out. So that's one conference done. Let's swing it over to the NFC, and we're going to begin with the NFC East, just like I did with the AFC East. And bottom, I have the New York Giants. I have them going 5-12. A lot of people, I gotta say this, a lot of people I know have this team going 7-10, 8-9, over 500. Why? They added Brian Burns, cool guy. They have a decent defense. This has a chance to be one of the worst offenses of 2024. With Daniel Jones at quarterback, what weapons do they have? They have no run game. So Daniel Jones is going to be throwing like 40 times a game at this rate. Who do they have in running back? Devin Singletary? He's not the game changer that you had with Saquon Barkley. So I'm not banking on them being that good. They don't have a ground game. Wide receivers, you have one real playmaker in Malik Neighbors, who's really good. I'm not going to deny that. Malik Neighbors has a chance to be with the win Rookie of the Year this season, if they give him enough targets and throw the ball enough. But Daniel Jones at quarterback, he's not going to be that great. The other wide receivers, you've Wan'Dale Robinson, you have Jalen Hyatt. They're just not good enough at this. They're not going to be good enough. They're not going to be good at all. I have them winning 1 division game and finishing with a record of 5-12. I'm intrigued about the defense. The defensive front is going to be awesome. Middle linebackers led by Micah McFadden. They have one decent secondary player with Deonte Banks, but other than that, it's a mess. Offense is a mess. They're not scoring more than 15 points a game. Giants, I have them going 5-12. Just ahead of them at 6-11, I have the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels has a chance to be the future of this division. I don't know if he'll do it with Washington, maybe with somebody else. But Jaden Daniels has the chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. Drafted 2nd overall out of LSU, big arm, skinny build, and has the chance to possibly be the most injured quarterback in this division for years to come. Washington's last year, the problem with them was turnovers. And they still kind of have a turnover quarterback because they have a big arm. But they traded Sam Howell, so they now have Jaden Daniels at quarterback. They traded, what was his name? From the former Penn State receiver. Because the Eagles made a trade with Washington. I'll hopefully maybe put it on the screen. When they traded for... I realized that the microphone that was being used died right because I did a long test before this, and the microphone I was using died. So the wireless mic here died. So, which is unlucky, and the thing that plugs in with the Bluetooth that died too. I guess I don't know. So back to whatever we're talking about, the Washington Commanders. And I said they're going 6-11. There's hopefully something that says the screen cut out. And I had them going 6-11. I mentioned a lot of things earlier. Daniels, I'm excited for. They traded Jahan Dotson, so we're interested to see how the wide receiver group looks there. But I'll keep it short. I have Washington going 6-11. But finishing ahead of them, I have the Dallas Cowboys, and I have them going 10-7. This team is interesting. They just re-signed CeeDee Lamb. The defense got a little bit worse. Dak Prescott is still there. How long will he continue to be their quarterback? Who knows?
they can't do a lot of things in the big moment. I mean, we saw them perform in some big games last season, but I'm interested to see how they come out after their disappointment against the Green Bay Packers last year in the playoffs. A game that still stuns me that the result even was how it went. So I have the Dallas Cowboys. I think Micah Parsons is going to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. They did just lose one of the key members of their secondary. I'm just blanking on who it was. Deron Bland, who's I believe is going to be out for a bit. I believe he just got hurt too. So unfortunate to see there, but I have the Dallas Cowboys finishing at 10-7, and winning the NFC East. I have the Philadelphia Eagles. They added Jahan Dotson. They added help in the secondary with Cooper DeJean, and I forgot who that was. Terrion Arnold their other draft pick? I don't think so. Um, Eagles draft. I'm forgetting who it was. Was it Terrion Arnold, or was that to the Eagles picked? I really thought it was Terrion Arnold. I streamed this and I don't remember. Quinyon Mitchell was their pick. Quinyon Mitchell, the scrappy corner from Toledo. They got Cooper DeJean. They traded a couple of picks. They got some good players. Jalix Hunt. I mean, I'm interested to see if they actually kept him. He's actually from Houston Christian. He's actually pretty decent. But they got they still have a good offense, and they added Saquon Barkley to the offense as well. That offense is going to be ridiculous. I have them going 14-3, but based on one of the tiebreakers, they don't win the conference. Winning the regular season conference title and being the number one seed in the NFC is the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to avenge last year. And why do I say they're going to avenge last year? Because they have arguably the top offense in the conference. You have Brock Purdy at quarterback, who some overrate, but I think he's perfectly rated in the middle, upper third in the middle of the higher ranked quarterbacks in the league. I don't rate him that highly, but I still think he's really good. You have Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in the league, and you have arguably the best wide receiver duo in the conference and in the entire NFL, in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You also got Ricky Pearsall, who actually just got out of the hospital. For those who don't know, he was recently shot during a robbery. It was very pleasing for me as a fan. I've liked Ricky Pearsall for a little bit when he got drafted out of Florida. I believe he got drafted out of Florida, and we heard about the news on Friday or Saturday, and it was very happy. I was very happy to hear that he was able to be okay after the incident that happened during the attempted robbery. So glad to hear Ricky Pearsall is okay. But back to the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan's teams do really good in the regular season. The question will be, will they win the Super Bowl this year? They were so close last year. They were just minutes away, but couldn't get it done in the end. But this year, I'm banking on them finishing pretty solid. We're going to go through the NFC West now, starting from the top now because I screwed it up. I have San Francisco winning the division at 14-3, winning the conference at 14-3. Second, I have the Seattle Seahawks at 10-7. I think this team is still really good. Listen, their quarterback situation is iffy. I will admit that. Geno Smith or Sam Howell, one of them will be emerging. I just don't know who it would be for them. We'll see come week 1. The running back group, Kenneth Walker, is still really good. Wide receiver group led by DK Metcalf is very good. Offensive line, very good. Defense, they continue to add. This team is still really, really solid, but I just don't bank on them coming out here and saying, yeah, we're going to be in the mix to win this division. I think they could win this division. I just don't really see them doing it. They got Witherspoon at corner. They have a bunch of other good corners this is what happens when it's been a long week. It's been a long start to the week, but all in all, I have the Seattle Seahawks finishing in second at 10-7. They're going to be really good, and they're going to be in the playoffs for me this season. In third, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I am not high on this team as much as some people are. I'm expecting slight fall-offs from Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. Matt Stafford's production, I think, is going to decline significantly. They still got Cooper Kupp, who I think is going to have a much better season. Tight end group is iffy. Offensive line is iffy. The defense, the defensive front, they just lost their best player in Aaron Donald. And they got 2 young rookies to replace him, which I think they're both going to be very good. Jared Verse, and I'm forgetting on who else it was. But they're still a good team. But I just don't see them getting over the hump ahead of a Dallas Cowboys or a Seattle Seahawks in the wild card race. I just don't see it. Like, if they had a little bit better of quarterback play, I could see it. If they had more help in the offense, I can see it. I just don't. They got good players. You can't excuse me on that. You shouldn't be expecting the production, a repeat of Puka Nacua. You can bank on a bounce back from Cooper Kupp, 100%. But Kyren, he had a great season last year. I'm expecting something similar, but not to the, top 5 running backs in the game. I don't agree with that. Puka Nacua is not a top 5 receiver in the game. I don't agree with that. He had one good season. He doesn't get over the hump of the receivers like CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and Jay Jettas and Garrett Wilson and players like that. I know Garrett Wilson's fringe and that just is below Justin Jefferson and all of them, but that's another receiver that you can maybe throw in that mix. I just don't. A.J. Brown, you can argue with Garrett Wilson as well. He's not a top 5 receiver. I don't think he's fringe top 10. I just don't see it with this receiver group, and a lot of people are overrating this receiving group. I don't see it. I don't know where this hype is coming from. I am putting the Los Angeles Rams at 9-8, and I have the Arizona Cardinals finishing bottom at 6-11. I'm intrigued to see how Marvin Harrison Jr. plays. I will say that. I'm excited to see how Kyler Murray comes back for a brand new season. But there's just not enough for me to get excited about with this team. I got not a lot to be excited about. I mean, they're going to be good enough to not being the running for the first pick, but they're not going to be bad enough to get a top 5 spot. And I think that's kind of what they need, is more picks to help them get over the hump eventually. Like, Kyler Murray is going to be really useful. I can 100% agree with that. But on the flip side, they just don't have enough pieces to get them really close to a 500 record yet. So, in the second season under Jonathan Gannon, the Cardinals just haven't done enough for me, and I'm going to finish them off by going 6-11. So my division in the NFC West, I have San Francisco top, Seattle, Los Angeles, and the Arizona Cardinals. Going to the NFC North, we have at bottom, we're going from bottom to top again, is the 6-11 Minnesota Vikings. I have the Vikings finishing bottom after I predicted them to win the NFC North last year. I know this prediction comes harshly because they really don't have a starting quarterback, and that's the main reason why I don't have them being very good. The defense is iffy. The way they just run this team is wrong. Like, they've made a lot of confusing moves. Like, they just haven't done anything to say, wow, they're getting better. They haven't done enough to really put me over the edge with them. Yes, they have arguably the best receiving duo in the division with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison and company, but they don't really have a quarterback to throw it to them. They don't have a running back to really get them. I mean, they have Alexander Madison and a couple of others, but it's just not going to be a good enough complement to say, yeah, automatic 1,500 receiving yards, Justin Jefferson. They're going to have to rely on Jefferson a lot and have a good shot. I don't know if it's going to be the recipe for success for the Minnesota Vikings this year. So I'm going to put them at 6-11. Finishing ahead of them, in third, I don't see the hype with them this year. I know Caleb Williams is going to be good, but I just don't see it. I have the Bears at 8-9. I don't see it with them. Yes, they're going to be solid, but, come on. I don't know if all of these traded pieces, they got Keenan Allen. He ain't going to be healthy for a whole season. Roma Dunze, I think, is going to be arguably the best rookie receiver because of Allen being hurt all the time. DJ Moore is great. Running backs, they got DeAndre Swift. But their defense, to me, is still really iffy. So they don't have a better defense than Detroit. They don't have a better defense than Green Bay. So I don't think they're going to be able to stop the high passing attacks of Green Bay and Detroit. So for that reason, Caleb Williams, we could put all of the highlights you want of Caleb Williams on the screen. All of that, plus the rookie quarterback, I just can't rate them that high. I am putting the Bears at 8 and 9. I know it's a little bit harsh, but I just don't see them being better than Detroit and Green Bay. Speaking of Detroit and Green Bay, in second place, I don't know how the computer program did this. In second, I have the Detroit Lions. Now, this is a little bit harsh because Detroit and Green Bay are both tied at 11 and 6 with a 3-3 divisional record. I think Green Bay has one more conference win than Detroit. I think is how I predicted this. But either one of them are going to win this division. It's not going to be Chicago. It's not going to be Minnesota. We'll start with Detroit. They're still really, really talented. Their defense is ridiculous. Their offense, led by Amon-Ra St. Brown and company, is going to be elite. Jameson Williams has a chance to emerge to be an elite receiver. Their offensive line, miraculous. And the question is going to be Jared Goff. How good is Jared Goff going to be with this group? And to me, I don't know exactly in the future if Jared Goff is the quarterback for them. He might be. But I just don't see it. They also have an elite tight end in Sam Laporta. Running backs, they have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, so the running back room is great. And if you go back to the defense, they got Marcus Davenport and Aiden Hutchinson on the ends. Linebacking core is great. Secondary led by Terrion Arnold. That's where the main hole is with the secondary. Carlton Davis is fine. Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are fine. But they're going to need to be better than fine in order for them to be in the mix to become Super Bowl contenders. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which I think is going to be a bigger loss for them than you would expect. So I'm interested to see how they look. I think the Lions are going to be good. I have them, I believe, 11 and 6, and I have them finishing tie for the top of the NFC North, just missing out, I believe, by one conference loss. By one conference game, because I have the Green Bay Packers top. This team is going to emerge as a contender this year, led by Jordan Love. Listen, I think they could have done more in certain areas, but the defense is great. Jordan Love is great. They added Josh Jacobs at running back. I think he has a good shot of being a star player this season for the not the Detroit Lions. He'll do it against the Detroit Lions. But the Green Bay Packers as a group, they open it up, by the way, on Friday. And a game that you can only watch, I believe, on Amazon, which is kind of unfortunate. But let's look at this team. They still on defense, because I love the defense. You get Preston Smith. You have Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary. Quay Walker, I still think, is pretty solid in the linebacking group. Jair Alexander. Added Xavier McKinney from the Giants. That was the move I was forgetting about. They're still really solid on defense. Offensively, wide receivers are going to be a big question mark for them with Christian Watson. They also have Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. I still think they're a solid receiving core, but the emergence of Jordan Love is why this team will be better than Detroit. Jordan Love is arguably the best quarterback in this division. I don't think a lot of people will dispute that. And with the way he can emerge, he has the chance to be great. And I think we're going to see that emergence this season. He was great in the playoffs. He was great at the end of last season. I think we're going to continue to see the greatness, the future greatness, the future next great quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. A quarterback, if you remember back in 2020, that was scrutinized. The pick was scrutinized heavily. Because they're like, Green Bay traded up to draft a quarterback? Well, that quarterback might be saving the franchise from going into irrelevancy after they traded Aaron Rodgers. So in that NFC North, I have Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit, and Green Bay. To the NFC South, in the bottom, I have the worst team in the league this year, the Carolina Panthers. They traded Brian Burns. They didn't do a lot. They drafted Xavier Legette, who's going to help in the receiving group. But this team is just not very good. They have so many holes. Bryce Young is going to die, is not going to get a lot of time to develop. And I think it's a very good shot they get rid of Bryce Young next year. I think it's possible. But if Bryce Young shows something, anything, and I think there's a good shot that he can, it will be such a boost to this franchise. Because the Panthers will be like, we still got our franchise quarterback, we just got to build around him. I still think Bryce Young has a solid future in the NFL, but the Panthers are ruining him. And I hate to say that, because Bryce Young, when he got drafted, had so much potential. But the Panthers, since he had that season from last year where they were the first pick and they didn't even get their first round pick. Because it was with the Bears. They were able to draft Caleb Williams. And they were able to draft Rome Odunze. The Panthers had to trade back into the first round to draft Xavier Legette. So, it's a weird spot to be in for the Panthers. I still think Xavier Legette's going to have a good season. Adam Thielen will hopefully help him. Adam Thielen's still there. But they're just not very good. I have them going 3-14. Finishing in third, I have the New Orleans Saints. I have the New Orleans Saints in third at 7-10. They are continuing to lose pieces. I have so many questions about this whole team in general. Derek Carr, since going to this team, has not. Last year he wasn't good. Is there a chance that he might get benched at some point in the season? Definitely. They drafted Spencer Rattler. Anything is possible. Never thought you'd say that sentence in the NFL, but here we are. They still got great receivers. You talk about Chris Olave, who's going to be the main difference maker with Rashid Shaheed. That's fine. Tight end is not great. Offensive line, they drafted Talise Fuaga, who I thought was going to be on the Jets, but he wasn't. They still got some good overall pieces. Defensively, you have Cameron Jordan still. They signed Nathan Shepard. Chase Young got signed to this team, so they're going to be good on that part. The question is the secondary. Tyrann Mathieu kind of old. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be great, but who else is it going to be besides Marshawn Lattimore? Jordan Howden, Paulson Adebo. Kool-Aid McKinstry's here, but he's not going to be like the starting corner off the jump. Linebacking core is aging with Willie Gay and Demario Davis. They're just not going to be able to outscore and defend everyone. So I'm going to say the Saints just miss out on winning the division because they're only going to be 2 games out, finishing 7-10. So Saints are going to be close, but I'm going to say they're not good enough. I think there's a good chance Derek Carr could get benched at one point in the season. I'm going to say the Saints go 7-10. Finishing ahead of the Saints, tied for first, but losing out on head-to-head, I have the Atlanta Falcons. They're a mess. And with the way their schedule can play out, I have a good feeling they're going to start like 6-2 and fall off. They have Kirk Cousins. I don't expect he could be healthy for the whole season. And I think he will elevate this offense. But this defensive front is still driving me crazy. They've done very minimal efforts to help the defense. They drafted Michael Penix for some reason. I don't think he will play at all this season. So it's a waste of a first-round pick. Problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that your defensive line is still not as good as some of the others in this division. And that will be a problem because if quarterbacks can stay in the pocket for 7,000 years, it will not help you. And it will be a problem when you can't rush the passer. You allow a lot of big plays. And that is another problem in itself. Problem number 2. Because if you look at the defensive front, you have Grady Jarrett, Onyemata, and they're missing a couple. I'm missing somebody on this, but wide receiver group, Drake London, and they signed Darnell Mooney, who's going to be fine, but I don't know if he's what they were looking for. Running backs, you have Bijan Robinson, who's going to be great. Offensive line, I think in some areas is still a problem. Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry are good. Jake Matthews, I think, is fine. Just some of the areas they have big holes at. And the defense, like I said earlier, they traded for Matthew Judon. He's going to be the edge rusher, I guess, that they needed. Defensive backs, they added Justin Simmons. AJ Terrell is still there. He just re-signed. They still have Jesse Bates, but it's just not. I think they're gonna fall just short to my divisional winner, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I also have at 9-8. They may not have done a lot in the offseason, and I think they're gonna get annihilated in the playoffs. But they're just better. They're more experienced in this situation. I mean, they made the playoffs. They won the division last year. I'm going to bank on them to do it again. Baker Mayfield, I'm expecting another good season from Baker Mayfield. I'm expecting another good season, a better season from Rachaad White. I'm expecting a bounce back for Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. You have to bank on some of these things in order for others to occur, of course. Defense, I still think is pretty okay. But a lot of these teams in this division are just in the okay realm. Like something like that. So I think Tampa Bay just being okay, I think wins them this mediocre division as a whole. There's a good shot that the division winner here doesn't go over 500 again. I said that last year. I think it's very possible it happens again. So I have this division finishing out with the Panthers bottom, Saints third, Falcons second, and Tampa Bay first. So my playoff teams would be San Francisco as the number 1 seed, then the Philadelphia Eagles. Green Bay wins the division, like I mentioned earlier, then Tampa Bay, with my wild card teams being the Detroit Lions, with the Seattle Seahawks and Dallas Cowboys. Teams barely missing out on the playoffs are the Los Angeles Rams and Atlanta Falcons. So this now will be the part of the video where I go over my playoff prediction, preseason playoff predictions, and my awards winners. So, we mentioned already the teams I have in the playoffs. I have out of the AFC East, Miami winning with the Jets as a wild card. AFC North, we have the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers all making it. AFC West, we have just the Chiefs, and in AFC South, we have just the Texans. So I already have done my playoff predictions, so let's talk about them. Starting us off, we have in our playoffs, the playoffs. I don't know why this is not loading. We have my playoff predictions for the preseason. So, wild card games. It would be the Texans against the Jets, which I would say the Texans would come up on top, get revenge on the New York Jets. We have the Baltimore Ravens. I have them beating the Cincinnati Bengals in a battle of the AFC North. I just think the Ravens are just going to be way better than last season. I have them beating Cincinnati. And then the other matchup would be the Miami Dolphins over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it would be 1, 2, 3, and 4 all advancing to the AFC divisional round. It would be the Chiefs then beating the Houston Texans. I want the Texans to win. I think it'll be a very low-scoring affair, but I just see Taylor Swift football club. This ain't soccer. It's Taylor Swift over the Houston Texans narrowly. And in the other game, I have the Baltimore Ravens emerging themselves over the Miami Dolphins in the AFC divisional round. Lamar Jackson continuing his dominance. And then I have Lamar Jackson and company going to the Super Bowl. I have them beating Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. So, my AFC champions, I'll just running it through. This video is going a little bit long. So, I have Baltimore as my AFC champions. And in the NFC, remember the teams are San Francisco and Seattle out of the West, Philadelphia and Dallas out of the East. North is Detroit and the Green Bay Packers, though Green Bay on top because they won the division. And finally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So in the NFC wild card round, I have Detroit over Tampa Bay, Green Bay over Seattle, and Philadelphia over the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of this is pretty predictable at this point. If Dallas is the last team in, they're going to get walked by Philly. Detroit is upset over Tampa, just feels inevitable. Though I think if Green Bay was in this situation, either NFC North team would beat Tampa Bay. I think that's too predictable. That Tampa Bay team isn't on the level of Green Bay or Detroit. And Green Bay over Seattle just to get a little bit of revenge from from ages ago, it feels like now. I have Green Bay advancing as well. So Detroit, Green Bay, and Philly move on to the divisional round, where the Eagles fall short to the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love is going to be, I believe, a finalist for NFL MVP this season. And he's going to help that team get in the running into the NFC title game against San Francisco, who I have defeating the Detroit Lions narrowly. It'll be a great game, a repeat, I believe, from last year. A game that will be back and forth, a game for the ages. But I still see San Francisco on top. We saw this game last year. We saw what it could be. And the additions that San Francisco and Detroit have made, or the subtractions as well, got to factor both of them in here. I see San Francisco going on top again in the playoffs. And I have them advancing over Detroit to then face off against Green Bay. And I have the San Francisco 49ers defeating the Green Bay Packers. Moving on to the Super Bowl, a repeat of like almost a decade ago now, but when Joe Flacco faced Colin Kaepernick, now it's Lamar Jackson against Brock Purdy. And my projected Super Bowl champions, I have San Francisco winning the Super Bowl. I have them doing it over the Baltimore Ravens in a narrow victory. This game has the chance to be one of the greatest games we've ever seen. Last year's game was great, but I think this game will be better, even though it might be less watched because all the Taylor Swift fans might not want to watch this game anymore because Kansas City wouldn't be in it. San Francisco is the best team in the league this season, or one of them. They're going to go up against one of my MVP favorites in Lamar Jackson. I got San Francisco on top by less than 7 points. It would be a game for the ages, but San Francisco, to me, wins the Super Bowl this year. Oh, and a fun fact, Carolina would win the first pick. Wins the first pick in my universe anyway. So, to finish off the video, we're just going to go over my awards predictions. MVP, I have Lamar Jackson winning MVP again for back-to-back seasons. He's going to be able to elevate this Baltimore Ravens team into my predicted Super Bowl, just falling short. But I think with how impactful he's going to be in the regular season, how impactful he's going to be for the playoffs, I just think even though it's a regular season focused award, I'm going to put Lamar Jackson, arguably a top 3 quarterback in the game, as my MVP winner. I think it's his third MVP. Offensive Player of the Year, no different from last year. I have it as Christian McCaffrey, and I have him actually being in the running for a Super Bowl MVP. I think he would win it probably if San Francisco were to win the Super Bowl. He is so elusive. He can do everything. He's versatile. He can be effective in the passing game as a pass catcher on the outside. He's a great runner. He's going to be rushing for around 95 to 100 yards a game. I think he can rush for over 1,400 yards this season and receive for over 600. I think 2,000 yards for him from scrimmage is very possible. And the way he's just so effective in games, I'm going to have Christian McCaffrey as my Offensive Player of the Year. DPOY, I'm going TJ Watt again. That was my same pick from last year. I have him being very lethal for that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. One of the main reasons that I have them making the playoffs this season is because of the effect of TJ Watt on that group. My other player to watch out for that would be Nick Bosa, but I don't think they would give it to 2 San Francisco players, even though they're going to be in the Super Bowl mix. My finalists for that would have been TJ Watt, Nick Bosa, and Micah Parsons. 3 edge rushers, sure, but I think they're going to be the 3 most impactful players on any defense this year. Myles Garrett is also going to be in that conversation, but I'm going to pick TJ Watt. For the rookies of the year, offensive rookie of the year, I think this is a no-brainer. I'm going Caleb Williams. There's no one really in the conversation to make it intriguing because all the good offensive players are on bad teams. Surprise pick, Keon Coleman. If he's impactful enough for Buffalo, can maybe be in the mix, even though I don't think it would be him. A lot of betting odds like Ladd McConkey from the Los Angeles Chargers, who I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Chargers. I completely forgot he was even there to begin with, so sorry about that. But I just don't see it. I just don't see that Chargers offense throwing the ball enough to get him involved enough to be in the mix for the award. So I'm going to go with a quarterback. It would be back-to-back years for a quarterback, I believe, because I think last year was C.J. Stroud. So I am going to go, even though last year I picked Anthony Richardson and I picked the wrong quarterback, this year I think I'm going to pick the right quarterback, and I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think there's a lot of good options. Latu, Dallas Turner, I think are going to be the main two options. Dallas Turner, I believe, of the Minnesota Vikings, and Latu of the Indianapolis Colts. I forgot to mention Dallas Turner when I was talking about Minnesota. They had a good draft this year, by the way, because they drafted Dallas Turner, and they drafted, who was the other player? This is where I believe they drafted Byron Murphy. Yeah, they drafted Byron Murphy. Terrion Arnold, I think, could be in the mix as well. But and Jared Verse, don't forget about Jared Verse of the Los Angeles Rams. But Quinyon Mitchell and this Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to be really good. And him and Cooper DeJean on opposite sides are going to be really, really good. I think Cooper DeJean has a chance to be in this mix as well. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell. He's just the best, I think, has the best defender to make an instant impact. The former corner out of Toledo, I think, is going to be able to have a very rocket-like start and soar up the rankings as one of the more underrated corners in the NFC this season. Comeback Player of the Year, I think this is a no-brainer. I have Aaron Rodgers. This is, like I said, no-brainer. Aaron Rodgers. Listen, he played four plays, got injured, is going to come back and lead the Jets to the playoffs. Even if he's not the most impactful player of all time, I would say Aaron Rodgers as a no. How much impact he will have for that team anyway, is good enough to give it to Aaron Rodgers. Last year it was Joe Flacco, and he only played 6 games, but had an immediate impact as they picked him over Damar Hamlin. This year I'm going to go with the theme of impact, not coming back from a serious injury, and I'm going to do a mix of the two, and I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Coach of the Year, I think there's a ton of good options for this one. My original pick when I was doing this, and I'll pull up my list, was Matt Eberflus, but then I realized Chicago doesn't make the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the coach on these betting odds that will make the playoffs this season and will continue to elevate that team for years to come. That's Mike McDaniel. I mean, why? Actually, they have Mike McDonald here, not Mike McDaniel. My apologies. So, who do I think would win this? Wow, there's not a lot of good options. I'm going to go with Matt LaFleur for the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur is going to win it. I almost said Mike McDaniel, even though that's not what the thing said, and that's really poor from me. I'm going to go with Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers. The way that team is going to be able to be elevated with LaFleur again, how good that offense is going to be, led by a possible MVP finalist in Jordan Love, I think he'll be the main person that would lead them into that reality. And I'm going to go with a good old pick of Mike LaFleur. So, Super Bowl champion predictions was San Francisco over Baltimore. My awards, just to run through them again: MVP Lamar Jackson, Offensive Player of the Year Christian McCaffrey, Defensive Player of the Year TJ Watt, Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going Caleb Williams, Defensive Rookie of the Year Quinyon Mitchell, Comeback Player of the Year is Aaron Rodgers, and Coach of the Year, I have it as Mike LaFleur. So, those are all my predictions. Like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel would be really appreciated. More to come on Friday. We'll go over the Thursday night football game as what to watch for in the Premier League this weekend on the first weekend of the NFL season and match day 4 of the Premier League season. All that to come on the next episode of the Robbie Basel Show. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. Enjoy your week. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everyone.